Hello everybody, my name is Jigglypants, and today we're going to be doing some redstone here in my creative test world. Today's project is a little bit of a big boy. It's going to be the next iteration of my storage system that I'm currently working on. It basically takes my storage system I'm using right now and kind of expands on it. So basically this whole top section here is a multi-item sorter. So it'll take item inputs in this chest and it'll sort them into their categories set by a filter here. So for example, just spruce logs. So if I was to put oak and a bunch of spruce logs in here, it will sort out all the spruce logs and deliver them into this first barrel here. And then it'll take the oak logs and put them where they're supposed to go, and so on and so forth. And then once they end up in this row of barrels, they'll move down into this shulker packer, this tileable shulker packer system. And once they're packed into shulkers, they get delivered into these chests here. So once the shulkers have made their way into this chest, this is kind of their storage state. This is where they stay and wait for the player to request an item from those shulker boxes. So when this first tile here is called upon, all the shulkers, they get dumped out of this chest into this storage minecart. They move through this hopper minecart down into the storage minecart. Once that's full, it will be released and it'll travel along this line here, and it'll make its way into one of these three searching modules. These are just I think Ethos Slabs, I want to say Googler, possibly. And I just kind of took his design and tiled three, one beside each other. So I'll be able to be searching three different things at the same time with the system. That's going to come in handy for when we get the auto crafter, because I want to, again, do another iteration of this where it can self-search and pull items to craft needed items to circulate back into the system. But that's for another day. We're not going to focus on that today. But yes, this is just Ethos, I believe, Googler that I've copied 3 times. So then it takes the shulkers, and it also takes an item that the player has requested, and it searches, and then it finds all the shulker boxes that have that item in it, and if it has the item in it, it goes up this bubble column and it delivers it to the player here to be able to open the shulker box and pull out the item. But if the shulker doesn't have the item in it, it'll go along this line and it'll go up this bubble column and it will just be returned back to its same holding chest. So that's kind of like a brief SparkNotes kind of flow chart of how the system works, not getting too much into the nitty gritty. So I'm just going to show you guys a quick demo of it partially working. I don't have all the kinks worked out just yet, but I'll show you the state that I have it in. So right now I'm going to be searching oak logs. So I just go across here, I hit Q, I drop the oak log into there, and then I wait. The wait time on this is about 15 seconds, so it's not the quickest thing in the world, but it's also not agonizingly slow. And then when our first shulker is delivered to us, we can check it does have oak logs in it along with other things. And if you might have heard the droppers trigger, and it actually returns the searched item to the players. Not to the player, but to this search chest. So yes, there's oak logs in that, and then when we want to move to the next shulker, just press the button. There's oak logs in that one as well, and so on and so forth. So yeah, for the most part, this system works, except for what we're going to be trying to figure out today is this problem right here. Getting all of the shulkers back to where they need to go. So if we take a look, we look here, we got some of the rejected shulkers. So these shulkers don't have oak logs in them, -1. And then all of these shulker boxes that do have oak logs in them, they all get held here. They all get stuck because of this system here that I'm still currently working on. Even though the green shulkers are the ones that got stopped and stuck here, those are not the issue because we know which strip they're going into. We know that they're in this first row, so they have to go back to this chest. Where the problem comes in is the red shulkers. I'm just going to be saying green shulkers as the ones with the item we're looking for, and red shulkers as shulkers that don't have the item that we're looking for. So the red shulkers, they come up and they go across this water stream over top of these hoppers, and then if this hopper is unlocked, it'll suck it through and put it into the correct system. So I'll show you guys just a little demo here. So we call upon an item, this note block basically gets triggered, and it one tick pulses this sticky piston, moves this block forward, unlocks this hopper. All good and dandy. But once one shulker goes through, it'll flow across here, it'll make its way into this chest, and it'll trip that comparator, which then in turn goes back and it does something with this T flip-flop, but it also hits this note block, which then repowers that. So because the items are not coming back super fast, it's kind of a race for time between when the first item gets back to that chest to the time the last one's flowing through this system. So we need to kind of get rid of that race for time, if that makes sense. I hope I explained that well enough that you can kind of grasp a little bit of the issue I'm having here. Basically, all the shulkers, once we're done searching them, and the ones that are bad, have to go back to where they're supposed to be. It's not doing that. We need to fix it. That's an even simpler way of saying that, I guess. But I've tried even like a T flip-flop system in here, so that when an item's searched, it triggers the T flip-flop, it unlocks that hopper, and then my issue is then how do I read when the last shulker flows through, which I can't think of a way of doing that logistically in the confines of Minecraft. It gets a little tricky with mechanics and stuff. Like, I can detect when the first item flows in, no problem, just easy comparator. But how do I detect a variable amount of items flowing through a hopper and detecting on the last one? So let's say one line I have 5 items will flow through and I detect on the 5th one, or let's say I got 7 items flowing through and I detect on the 7th one. It just gets exponentially more complicated when you think about the actual logistics of how you're going to do it. So instead of doing all of that with trying to figure out how to detect the last item flowing through a hopper, I think I'm just going to try and stop the shulkers here. Just pause them, and then after we're all done searching and once everything's finished, just unlock them so they'll then flow back to where they're supposed to go. I think that might be a good idea. All ideas are good ideas until you try them and they fail, so I think that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to test that out, and if I come up with something good, I'll show you guys the solution I've come up with, and if not, you're never going to see it. So that idea of locking the shulker box in this hopper line, it was kind of garbage. It didn't work. The main issue is trying to pull the signal from this note block here. I just couldn't figure out how to do it properly, and it's kind of a tight space. I think this is like 4 blocks. Yeah. Actually, it was 3 blocks because I actually ended up lifting this hopper line. But yeah, it was just too tight in here to try and get it to work. So I came up with this system here where I actually pull the signals from 2 different locations over here. The first location is this hopper line here. When an item flows through, this comparator picks it up and it triggers these observers, which trigger this T flip-flop. This hopper line here is just the item input. So when you're searching an item, you throw the item into this hopper, it flows down this hopper chain into, I guess, across this comparator to get the first stage of the T flip-flop. And that T flip-flop will shut this piston off and in turn unlock the original hopper. But then to get the T flip-flop to turn off again once it's done searching and everything, the searching module actually kicks out the searched item at the same time when it's done searching, and that item gets returned to the player. The signal gets picked up in this dropper when the item's getting returned back to the player by this comparator. It shoots the signal through this barrel, lighting up this, and then we pick a signal up off of that into to take the other side of the T flip-flop to then shut it off again. It's a neat little trick pulling signals through a hopper line. This I didn't actually know this off the start, but it might be a little easier to show you guys here. You can actually just have items pass through a hopper line and have a barrel where you need the redstone signal to pass through, and they don't affect each other, or they might for a split second as the barrel's being powered, but in this system that doesn't quite matter. It's just a neat little trick I didn't quite know about until I started monkeying around a bit with this. Comes in handy when you're trying to do tileable redstone like this and you're trying to move items and signals on the same plane. Gets a little confusing. And then another system I added was just this system up here. It's just basically like a push button display where it just as the item that's being selected, or as the item that's being searched, it'll go and it'll select, so it displays the items in the correct spot here. So I just started a search here on the redstone column, and we should be getting those results shortly here. So here we're given all the shulker boxes with redstone, and the redstone is returned back to the search chest. And if we just go through, we'll find all of the shulkers have redstone in them. But to just kind of demonstrate that it doesn't matter how many different items or different blocks are in these shulkers, you can, as long as there's one of the searched item in it, you'll be able to have it displayed to the player. So if I just search now for repeaters, we should get mostly the same shulkers, but I have put repeaters into a separate one of the red boxes, so that should get displayed to us as well. So once those results have come in from that search, we get a lot of the similar shulker boxes because these have redstone and repeaters in them, but we should get one shulker box that is red. There we go. See, I threw a couple repeaters in there, so that gets displayed to us as well. It's kind of neat. It still has a couple of kinks in the system. It's not perfect. Like, for example, here, when the red shulkers are getting fed back, it sometimes doesn't align them properly along the edge, and I'm not sure why, because I've tried honey blocks down there, I've tried chests, I've tried changing the ice, I've even tried changing these water columns around, using fence gates instead of slabs to block the water and stuff, and just I'm not sure why. Like, it works perfectly fine everywhere else I use something like that, like there, or even here. No issues, perfectly fine every single time. It's only this line here, and I can't quite figure it out. Another slight issue is with the actual design of this part, how I break the shulkers and stuff. Um, these hoppers down here are not locked, so I can't just display the shulker right on top of the hopper. Otherwise, it'll start sucking the items out. So I've had to display them with a 1 block gap and then break them with the powdered snow, which is, I would say, 95% effective in getting the shulker where it needs to go, because the powdered snow kills the momentum of the destroyed block. But every so often, I get one that lands right on the edge and it gets sucked into the adjacent hoppers. So I could probably show you guys back in here. So we just did a whole bunch of searches with the redstone boxes here, and one of them's ended up with the stone boxes. So I've tried putting slabs down, not slabs, trapdoors down in here and kind of flipping them up, but that just kind of seems to make the problem even worse. And so I'm starting to think this whole section here is going to need a redesign, but it is what it is. I'm sure I'll have just as much fun redesigning this as I did figuring out all these systems, all these little intricate timings and stuff. One thing I forgot to mention about this is the 4 repeaters here with the 4 ticks each. That is just so the last shulker box has enough time as it's coming across to flow down in before the system shuts off, because sometimes the searched item gets ejected at the exact same time the last shulker that failed gets ejected, the last red shulker. So they kind of race each other up here, and if the item's a little bit quicker, this will shut off just like milliseconds before the red shulker goes across. So I just added in a bunch of delay so we don't have that problem. But I think that's about it for this video. We made lots of good progress, I think, with this system with returning, and also this system up here of just having the shulkers display in the correct spots. It was a couple bangs and clangs, some spilt water onto redstone, but all good fun. So if you want to stay up to date with this project, where I might be in the future adding an auto crafting system where it self-searches for items that we're low on, please consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.